Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to cross the water to Denmark once again, and we're going to visit a brewery who I have actually physically visited and done a beer tasting and stuff and made a little video there, but I've never actually reviewed one of their beers in a kind of sit down format for you, so I'm really curious to see how this one turns out. So we're going to go to a little place called Untappd today, which is kind of in the northwestern part of Sjaelland, and we're having a taste of a beer from Halsnæs Bryghus. So this one is the Lynæs, which is an IPA coming in at 6% ABV, and it's supposed to be pretty good actually. The beer that I reviewed when I was at Halsnæs Bryghus was the Rud Ran, basically it was their red ale, which was quite nice actually, quite a classic Irish red from what I remember. But looking forward to trying something a little bit different, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So yeah, as always before I taste the beer then I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I'll do in the future from Halsnæs Bryghus. Very first time I'm doing a sit down review of one of their beers. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Danish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Halsnæs Bryghus then. So as I mentioned to you earlier, Halsnæs Bryghus are based in Untappd in North Sjaelland, and the company was founded back in 2008 by a group of 11 different investors. So the chairman of this group was Jens Henriksen, who runs the Superbest supermarket franchise in Untappd, and the idea behind the company was basically to establish a brew pub in Untappd Harbour, which is actually pretty nice, I have to say. But they offered a shareholding initiative in the early days so that individuals could invest in the brewery. They were offering 3,000 shares, each of which were going to cost you 2,500 Danish kroners, which is, you know, it's somewhere in the region of about 300 euros these days as of August 2019. It's somewhere in that kind of region. But they were initially brewing their beers at Halsnæs Bryghus until May 2009, all of their beer, before they opened their own brewery. And they brew on the very small scale actually within this brew pub as well. But the current head brewer is Thomas Nandro Andersen, and he always says that they brew 6 regular beers. They've got those available all year round, and every year they aim to produce somewhere between 8 and 12 different seasonal beers. And I think some of these are repeated and some of them are brand new each year as well. But the regular bottle beers are still produced at the Halsnæs Bryghus, which is a little bit out to the west of Roskilde, if I'm remembering correctly, and that's definitely a city in Sjaelland that you want to visit. Very beautiful, and so these bottled beers that you get from them are certified organic. As of August 2018 though, when I had a little look on Untappd, this brewery have 50 different beers that they've produced so far. So quite a few of them are available in bottles, like I say, 6 year-round beers, and then you've got various seasonals and things like that that come out as well. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about the brewery for the moment. That was all the information I was really able to find on these guys, to be honest, and that tends to be the case actually with some of these Danish breweries. You can't always find too much information on them. I looked at newspaper articles, I looked at the Wikipedia page, I looked at the brewery website itself as well, but there really wasn't all that much information available on this brewery. So yeah, there you have it. But yeah, if you want to learn a little bit more, of course you can check out the brewery website in the description below, and of course you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. If you want to see the different beers that these guys do, you can of course check out their Untappd profile as well. But yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself then. So like I said, the Lynæs IPA at 6% ABV from Halsnæs Bryghus, and there you can see there is the Halsnæs Bryghus symbol on the bottom there, which is quite smart actually, and there you can see Lynæs, if I've pronounced that correctly. So it just says this is it's quite a bitter IPA. It's got undertones of tropic fruit and I think that would be floral quality. Brewed with building malt. Yeah, Danish can be a bit different, but so it's got red flavour and a little bit of it's got red rye or something like that in it. With full red rye and caramel as well apparently. So Yeah, kind of interesting there, but brewed at Halsnæs Bryghus for Halsnæs Bryghus. It tells you a little bit in the back. I'll put that there because, yeah, my Danish, when I have to read it under pressure like this, it can be a little bit difficult. If I've got a bit more time, it can be okay. But there you can see, plain bottle cap on this one. And like I said, this beer is sort of, I don't know if it's right to say it's contract brewed, but it's brewed at the Halsnæs Bryghus anyway. And I've, I've tried some of their beers for you on the channel before. I need to review some more of theirs actually, because it's been a good 2-3 years actually since I've reviewed anything from Halsnæs, and their organic beers were actually pretty good from what I remember. But yeah, I think we will actually be able to get most of this in this glass. This is a half-litre glass incidentally, but I think for the purposes of reviewing, yeah, that'll probably do for the moment. There is still a little bit left in the bottom there, but it gives you a nice fruity aroma actually when you open the beer up. So as you can see, if I hold this beer up to the glass, it is actually kind of crystal clear, this one. I'm not sure if this will be it's obviously not a New England style IPA. I'm not sure if it will be a West Coast IPA or whether it will lean a little bit more towards being an English style IPA or something like that, but you can see it's a lovely, nice ambery golden colour. There's a solid finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head on that one. It's not even got a little bit of a creamy tinge to it, definitely a perfect white head on there. 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass and a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there, but overall it looks pretty nice, not overly surprising when you consider that it is an IPA. So let's look at the aroma and see how we get on. Yeah, this definitely smells. It smells a little bit. It actually smells kind of similar to some of the IPAs that, for example, the traditional breweries in Scotland would serve. I mean, it's definitely. I think this one's definitely going to be a sort of English style IPA rather than anything else. So it comes across as a sort of traditional, old school English sort of style IPA, this one, in terms of its aroma. There's definitely a nice little bit of a bready quality to this one. It's quite biscuity as well. It reminds me of these McVitie's digestive biscuits. It kind of smells like the sort of syrupy stuff that they use to hold those together. It really reminds me of that. There is a little bit of a richer caramel in there, quite a sweet caramel at that as well. So biscuity, caramelly, a little bit bready, white bread I would say too. So yeah, the malt base of this one kind of goes together quite well. It is quite simple, but it works. There is a bit of a grainy, cereally quality. When you sugar the beer up a little bit more, you start to get more of a grainy, cereally quality out of it as well. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things, there's a nice mix of things. I mean, there's a little touch of an earthiness in there, and it's quite a sweet earthiness. I mean, I would wonder if they've used a little bit of German hop in here as their bittering hop or something. You've got a nice little bit of a floral aromaticity. You've also got a little bit of a lighter grassy note, and there is some kind of nicer fruity notes in here too. To me, this one leans a little bit. I do wonder if it's maybe Cascade that's in here, because it's got a nice little touch of that grapefruity quality. Yeah, I do think it's got a little bit of Cascade in it, because it's not overly juicy and fruity, and it's, Cascade, if I remember rightly, is only about 7 or 8% alpha acid, so it's not quite as sort of pungent in its aroma compared to other ones, but definitely there's a nice little bit of that kind of juicy tropical fruity note in there. I also want to say that this beer has a little bit of an orange quality to it, so could there be a little bit of Mandarina Bavaria or something in there? Of course you've got many other hops that can give you orange, Pacifica from New Zealand, Mandarina Bavaria from Germany as I mentioned, Mosaic, Amarillo, Azaka from the US. I mean, it could be a little bit of Amarillo, to be honest, that's in here as well. So yeah, I do think there's a little bit of an orangey quality to this beer. Yeah, I like how that goes together. I quite like the aroma of this one. It's one of the nicer sort of English smelling type IPAs that I've kind of come across. So yeah, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. I mean, this one is quite a sweet malty IPA with a little bit the grassy, the green side of the hops really lean towards the floral side of the beer as well, but it does have a nice little bit of a juicy fruity quality in there also. So yeah, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it, but let's have a taste of this one now and see how we get on. We'll put the last little bit in as well since it's settled down a little bit. There is a wee bit of a more kind of cloudy note being added onto this one. But yeah, so let's get stuck into this beer then. This one is the Lynæs, an IPA coming in at 6% ABV from Halsnæs Bryghus in Untappd in the northwest of Sjaelland in Denmark. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål. That's actually pretty nice. I mean, by no means is this one of these IPAs that's going to blow the head off you in terms of bitterness or anything like this. And this was the impression, in fairness, that I got a little bit from the Rudderand when I tried that at the brewery. This this brew pub, it's sort of like I would describe these as the sort of restauranty, food pairing type beers that these guys are making, and it's quite a good thing actually. You know, it's the sort of style of beer that would be very popular in Japan and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of effort these days going into brewing beer that does pair well with food. So this is one of these kind of nice, lighter, more sessionable type beers. And I've said this about a couple of other breweries recently. Pine Ridge in Sweden are one that kind of spring to mind actually. Their beers are very light and drinkable, and you can tell that they're just the intention with these beers is that they're meant to be both sessionable or paired with food. Those are the two main purposes of it. So this isn't one of those beers that's like, for example, some of the things you're going to get from Gamma Brewing or Amar Bryghus or something like that. These are beers that are intended just to be kind of relaxed and paired with food and stuff like this. So just be aware of that if you are going to try some of these. But in fairness as well, I do think that's pretty nice. This is one that you could sit down with on the beach and certainly enjoy a good couple of these actually. It does have that nice crisp refreshing thing there. And oddly enough, when my dad and I were over in Sjaelland, the heat over there was incredible. I think it was about 25, 28 degrees, you know, it was somewhere in that kind of region. So we managed to sit outside, or we managed to go inside the brewery and sit outside and have some ice cream and stuff later on, and it was just really nice. Sjaelland is a beautiful part of the world actually. Denmark's a lovely country with lovely people. But yeah, this is a really pretty solid sessionable IPA, this one. I like it. So yeah, let's try and break the flavour of this one down a little bit then. So, in the middle of your palate, you can definitely pick up, there's a nice little, I keep getting these little fruit flies in here because it's some of these little teeny ones, they're so annoying. But yeah, in the middle of your palate then you can feel there's this nice pale malty quality, that just blankets the middle of your tongue, but it is actually quite grainy. So I'm wondering if it's a little bit of a rye or something like that they've put in this beer. And it did say on the back there is Rudig Farve, and I don't know if that is like rye, I can't remember, I think you would say rug in Swedish, so I'm surprised it's not something similar in Danish right enough, but there are some of the words in Danish that are a bit more German than they are in Swedish and Norwegian, so I don't know. But it really does have a bit more of a kind of grainy base to it, in fairness, but it sweetens up the further that you go into the aftertaste. In the very centre of your palate there is a little bit of a caramel in there. It's a little bit more toasty than it comes across as being in the aroma right enough, and as you move out of the centre of the palate it gets a little bit more kind of it definitely gets a little bit more kind of biscuity and things like that. So yeah, it's nice how that malt base goes together, and it does dry out again the further that you go into your aftertaste. So it comes in, it is a little bit kind of dry and bitter and stuff like that, and then sweetens up a little bit, but then it goes to be a little bit more kind of grainy, which is interesting. It's an interesting transition that this beer makes. In fact, the malt base isn't too complex, but it's just, you know, it's just quite nicely done, and you can't really ask for much more than that. Yeah, it's all good. I mean, it's I do like how this one goes together. I really do. I've been repeating that a few times. So let's move on to the hoppy side of the beer then. Back corners of the palate, there's definitely a little bit of earthiness in there. As you come further forward along the sides of the tongue, it's got a little bit of a it does have a good little bit of a kind of floral aromaticity to it, in fairness, and then round the very front curve of the palate it's a little bit lighter and grassy. I mean, with the way that the floral character's coming out in this one, it is actually quite spicy, and it's almost a bit resinous, to be honest with you. They might have used a little bit of Chinook in here or something like that, because I mean it does have a good little bit of that dank resinous quality, but at the same time it is also a little bit kind of spicy in terms of its floral quality, so it could be Columbus that's in here as well to give the beer a little bit of extra bitterness. But round the very front curve of the palate, it is that bit lighter and grassy. Then behind the front curve of the tongue, of course, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters start to come out of the beer. And this beer does have a good little bit of an interesting thing going on there. Yeah. It is nice, I have to say. Now, if you go to the back of that oily bubble, definitely grapefruit, definitely a bit of that darker, stronger, more even, it's maybe even fair to say more sour and grapefruity note. So I do wonder if there could be a little bit of cascade in here as well, because it's not, I suspect it might not be Chinook that's in here. I think it might be Columbus and a bit of Cascade, because the floral quality is quite spicy, but the strength of the grapefruit flavour isn't quite as strong as you might get from Chinook. So I do suspect there's a bit of Cascade in here. I'm not saying I would exclude completely the possibility that this beer has some Chinook in it. I always like playing Guess the Hops with these beers, incidentally. But as you come further forward from that darker grapefruit flavour at the back of the palate, you move a little bit further forward, then it starts to become more sort of orangey, has this little bit of an oily orangey character, so maybe there is a little bit of an Amarillo note in here as well, but the fruity side of the beer is pretty straight up grapefruit and then orange as you kind of come further forward, and then you get some of these grassy fruity esters coming out of the beer too. But overall, in terms of flavour, this is a pretty solid beer. In terms of being a more kind of restaurant-y, food pairing-y type IPA, I think this is pretty solid. It certainly does have a good little bit of flavour in it. It does kind of strike me as being a little bit more of a kind of old school West Coast IPA actually. So thumbs up to Halsnæs Bryghus for this one. The Lynæs IPA is pretty impressive actually, so have a go at this beer for yourself and just see what you think. I think they've done a good job of this, so I maybe need to try something from the darker end of the spectrum from these guys as well, one of the stouts or something like that, or a porter, because I'm pretty impressed with this one. And the Rude Ran was a pretty good beer as well. It'd be cool to do a sit-down review of that for you at some point too. But in terms of the mouthfeel of this one then, I'd describe this beer as being pretty mid-bodied. Carbonation does give the beer a good bit of crispness in this one. It is quite active. There's a bit of an oily quality to the mouthfeel, but at the same time it is a little bit more crisp and wet. Good bit of hoppy bitterness to this beer. I wouldn't be surprised if this one's about 50 IBUs. I mean, it could even be 60 to be honest with you. It does have a good bit of a spicy floral kick on the side of the palate. As I say, I think down to Columbus and maybe some Chinook in here as well. The malt base is kind of grainy, and I would say that the malt base is contributing a little bit to the IBUs in this one, but it does have a bit of sweetness as well, and you've got some nice juicy fruity qualities to this beer as well, kind of an oily fruity quality also. But yeah, I have been impressed with this beer. I wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. It's a nice sort of West Coast style IPA, this one, but also it's quite obviously designed to be paired with foods and things like that too. But I wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. You could session a couple of these on the beach, and of course there are some very nice beaches on Sjaelland, particularly during the summer. So keep an eye out for this one. Go and visit Untappd if you get the chance. It's a pretty little town. And of course you've got some pretty good beer there with these guys as well. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one is the Lynæs, an IPA coming in at 6% ABV that's pretty damn good in my opinion, from Halsnæs Bryghus in Untappd on Sjaelland in Denmark. Until the next time, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from the Halsnæs Bryghus as well. Check out my social media and I will catch you guys very soon. The Lynæs IPA at 6% ABV from Halsnæs Brewery in Untappd on Sjaelland in Denmark. Slàinte skål, make sure you have a little go at this beer and keep an eye out for my brewery visit video as well. Cheers.